The tragedy of Keanu Reeves is that the world calls him the kindest man in Hollywood, but no one asks what broke him hard enough to create that kindness. We remember him giving Rolex watches engraved with names to every stuntman in the John Wick cast, but we don't remember that for nearly 20 years he had no one to give birthday presents to. We admire him for donating $31.5 million to leukemia research, but we forget that he did it because his sister was dying slowly in a hospital bed and he could do nothing else but pray. The internet crowns him the boyfriend of the entire world, but the woman he loved died in a car accident at 6 a.m. on Cahuenga Boulevard, alone, without a seatbelt, and he had to call the morgue to ask if she was there. In every photo taken with fans, his hand always hovers in the air, never touching anyone, and the world calls that politeness, but perhaps it is the hand of a man who has lost too much by touching. Around Keanu Reeves, there are always empty chairs. His best friend died of a drug overdose at age 23 right in front of him. His daughter was born on Christmas night and never took a breath. The woman he loved is buried next to that baby in the same cemetery. His sister fought cancer for 10 years while he cooked meals, cleaned the house, and prepared her medicine every day. And after all of that, he still walks into every set, every interview, every subway car, and somehow makes the people around him feel safer. The question is not why Keanu Reeves is kind. The question is how a man who buried his best friend, buried his daughter, and buried the woman he loved, all before the age of 40, can still hold the door open for strangers without letting anyone see that his hands are shaking. Before we look through that kind person to find the survivor behind it, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like for a man who, if he could, would probably do the same for you. Keanu Charles Reeves was born on September 2, 1964, in Beirut, Lebanon. His father, Samuel Nalin Reeves Jr., was an American geologist of Hawaiian and Chinese descent carrying English, Irish, and Portuguese blood. His mother, Patricia Taylor, was an English costume designer from Essex. The name Keanu in Hawaiian means cool breeze over the mountains, given by Samuel himself after his uncle Henry Keanu Reeves. The two met in Beirut while Patricia was working there. In 1966, when Keanu was not yet 2 years old, Samuel and Patricia divorced. By 1967, when the boy turned 3, Samuel disappeared completely from his son's life. There was no dramatic goodbye. There was no final argument. There was only a man who stopped showing up and an empty chair at the dinner table. In the years that followed, court records showed that Samuel was arrested for selling heroin at Hilo International Airport in Hawaii, that he earned his high school diploma in federal prison, that his life drifted in a completely different direction and never returned. But for Keanu, those details mattered less than the void. Not anger, not forgiveness, only the purest absence. When a child waits for his father to walk through the door, but those footsteps never come. Keanu never reconnected with his father. No hatred, no forgiveness, only an eternal void. After the divorce, Patricia took Keanu and his sister Kim from Beirut to Sydney, Australia, then to New York, and finally settled in Toronto, Canada, in the late 1960s. In Toronto, she married 3 more times and divorced all 3. The first stepfather was Paul Aaron, a stage and film director who had worked on Broadway. The marriage lasted less than a year before collapsing in 1971. Paul Aaron was the first to introduce Keanu to the world of entertainment. The second stepfather was Robert Miller, a rock music promoter. Then another. Each new man brought a new promise of stability, and each departure confirmed to the boy that people come and go. That is the rule. Do not cling too tightly to anyone. Keanu grew up mainly under the care of his maternal grandparents and a housekeeper, while Patricia was busy designing costumes for film crews. He rotated through 4 high schools in Toronto, including Etobicoke School of the Arts and De La Salle College, carrying dyslexia that turned every page into a battle no one helped him fight. He was expelled from De La Salle, not for causing trouble, but because the system had no place for a child who could not sit still while the world inside him was spinning. But Keanu's childhood was not hell. It was not brutal. It was simply unstable. He was not beaten, not starved, not deliberately hurt by anyone. He was only adrift from city to city, from stepfather to stepfather, from school to school, like a leaf that does not know where it is floating. His wound was not violence, but the absence of foundation, the feeling that nothing beneath his feet was permanent. In that drifting, only 2 things stood still. The first was ice hockey, where he played goalie for the school team and was nicknamed The Wall by his teammates because nothing got past him. a nickname that felt like prophecy because Keanu Reeves had learned early to block everything, including his own emotions. The second was acting, and amid it all, there was one person who never left. His sister Kim Reeves, full sibling, born in 1966, who shared everything with him not by choice, but simply because there was no one else left. In a world where every chair around them emptied and filled and emptied again, Kim was the chair that never emptied. She was there when their father left. She was there when their mother changed husbands. She was there when her brother was expelled from school. And she would still be there 30 years later when she lay in a hospital bed, fighting blood cancer, and he sat beside her, holding her hand every day. But that part belongs to a much more painful chapter. After being expelled from De La Salle, Keanu transferred to Avondale Secondary Alternative School, which allowed him to pursue professional acting alongside his studies. In 1979, at age 15, he declared that he wanted to be an actor. He got his first agent thanks to the role of Mercutio in the school's Romeo and Juliet, and by age 18, he was fully supporting himself through acting. In 1981, at age 17, he dropped out of school and soon after moved to Los Angeles. Acting was not just a career for that fatherless teenager, it was a refuge. The stage and the camera lens gave him a world with clear rules, where there was a script, a director, dialogue, a beginning and an end, where the chaos of real life could not invade, where a boy who belonged nowhere could finally belong to any character he was given. In 1986, Keanu Reeves entered Hollywood with his first role in the sports film Youngblood, playing a Quebecois hockey goalie opposite Rob Lowe, and it was ironic that his debut film placed him in the exact position he had played in real life in Toronto. The wall standing in the net blocking everything, including the things inside himself. That same year, he appeared in River's Edge, an independent crime film that critics noticed, but Hollywood at the time did not know where to place Keanu Reeves. His agent thought the name Keanu was too strange, too hard to pronounce, too unlike anyone selling tickets in North America, and in the early days of his career, he was sometimes credited as KC Reeves, as if shortening the name would help him fit into some drawer. But Keanu did not fit into any drawer. He carried Hawaiian, Chinese, English, Irish, and Portuguese blood, born in Lebanon, raised in Australia, then Canada, speaking English with a North American accent, but with a face no one could precisely categorize. He was not a typical white actor, not a typical Asian actor, not belonging to any casting category that 1980s Hollywood had already built. And that was precisely his superpower, because a person who belongs nowhere can belong anywhere. An actor without a fixed identity can become anyone the script requires. And the boy who had drifted through 4 cities and 4 high schools turned that drifting into a transformative ability few others possessed. In 1989, the first turning point arrived in the least expected form. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a science fiction comedy about 2 goofy teenagers traveling through time, made Keanu an overnight star as Ted Theodore Logan. The film was a commercial success beyond all expectations, and the public loved Keanu for Ted's carefree innocence, for the clueless smile that worried about nothing in the world, for the way that teenager walked through every trouble as if life were just a fun adventure. And this was the first paradox in Keanu Reeves's career. Ted Logan was a boy with a normal life, a family, friends, the carefree quality that only those who have never lost anything possess. Keanu Reeves played that role, played it so perfectly that the whole world believed he was Ted, while in real life he was a 24-year-old young man with no father, a mother who had changed husbands 4 times, a sister as the only one left, and he carried the wound of abandonment that no one on set knew. The world loved him for the innocence that real life had stolen long before the camera turned on. Beside him in Bill and Ted was Alex Winter, who played Bill S. Preston, and the 2 young actors became best friends off-screen, a friendship that 35 years later would bring them together on the Broadway stage in Waiting for Godot. But that belongs to a very distant chapter ahead. Also in 1989, on the set of Parenthood directed by Ron Howard, Keanu met a young actor through that actor's girlfriend, Martha Plimpton, who played Keanu's teenage love interest in the film. That young actor was River Phoenix, 19 years old, 6 years younger than Keanu. Already famous from Stand By Me in 1986 and just having played young Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. River and Keanu became best friends almost immediately, two souls recognizing each other in an industry famous for its falseness. River once said about Keanu that he is a sweet person. People don't understand him. He is very intelligent and will rule the world. Keanu spoke about River more simply and far more painfully, that I always loved him. River was my best friend, and I don't have many best friends. In 1991, director Gus Van Sant wanted both of them for My Own Private Idaho, the story of hustlers on the streets of Portland. River's agent refused to let him even read the script. Gus Van Sant suggested that Keanu persuade him directly. And Keanu did what only Keanu would do. He climbed onto his 1974 Norton Commando motorcycle, rode more than 2,000 kilometers from Toronto down to the Phoenix family farm in Florida, and personally handed the script to his friend. River finished reading and said he would only agree to do it if Keanu did it with him, that the two of them had made a blood pact for this film. My Own Private Idaho was not a commercial success, but it bound the two with something money cannot buy. Shared creative experience, absolute trust, and the feeling that in this world there was at least one person who understood them completely. For Keanu, who grew up without a father, with a family that constantly changed and fell apart, River Phoenix was the first chosen relationship into which he invested his whole heart. Not a family obligated by blood, but a friendship he actively built, the chair beside him that for the first time in his life he himself invited someone to sit in. Parallel to that friendship, Keanu's career continued to climb. Point Break in 1991, the role of FBI agent Johnny Utah opposite Patrick Swayze confirmed him as a true action star. Speed in 1994, the blockbuster with Sandra Bullock on the bus that could not stop, made him an A-list name worldwide. And right after that peak, Keanu did something Hollywood does not forgive. He turned down Speed 2, turned down the enormous money, turned down repeating himself. The price was a string of failures between 1995 and 1998. Johnny Mnemonic. Chain Reaction films the box office forgot even before the lights went out. His career clearly declined. But Keanu did not panic. He alternated big films with small art films, chose roles by instinct rather than by market, lived with his career the way he lived with life, following no formula, clinging to no peak, because he had learned from childhood that clinging to anything means pain when it disappears. Then in 1999, the rebirth arrived. The Matrix, the film by the Wachowski siblings, placed Keanu in the role of Neo. A programmer who discovers the world around him is only an illusion and must wake up to face reality, even though that reality is more painful than the dream. The film changed film history, changed the way the world thinks about reality and illusion, and turned Keanu Reeves from an action star into a global cultural icon. He was paid $10 million in initial salary, plus a percentage of box office revenue, with total earnings from the first film estimated at around $45 million. And instead of keeping it all for himself, he reinvested the back-end profits back into the film franchise to ensure every member of the crew, from effects specialists to costume staff, continued to have work in the sequels. But the greatest paradox of The Matrix did not lie on the screen. Neo is the one chosen to wake from the false world, to face the truth, even though the truth is brutal. Keanu Reeves in real life was doing the complete opposite. He stepped into the world of film, the world of scripts and stage lights, to escape a reality that no script could write. The Matrix was not just a film, it was a cultural explosion. When the film by Lana and Lily Wachowski premiered on March 31, 1999, it changed everything. The way Hollywood shoots action, the way philosophy entered the mainstream, the way young people around the world dressed, the way everyday language absorbed phrases like red pill and blue pill and glitch in the Matrix that 2 decades later people still use without needing to mention the source. The film grossed $463 million worldwide, won 4 Oscars, and turned Keanu Reeves from an action star, recovering from a string of failures, into a global cultural icon whose influence far exceeded the realm of cinema. Neo was not just a character. Neo was an idea. Neo was awakening, liberation, the choice to face the truth, even though the truth is more brutal than the illusion. And the public identified Keanu with Neo almost completely, as if the man in the black coat on screen and the man in the black coat in real life were the same person, As if Keanu Reeves really was the one. Immortal, unbeatable, able to stop bullets in midair with just an outstretched hand. That burden, the burden of being identified with a character who cannot die, would become unbearably brutal when placed next to what was happening in his real life. Because while the whole world worshipped Neo as an immortal god, Keanu Reeves in real life was losing people one by one, and he could not stop a single bullet. This is the timeline no one saw while sitting in the movie theater. On October 31, 1993, his best friend River Phoenix died of a drug overdose at age 23 outside the Viper Room nightclub on Sunset Boulevard. In 1998, he met Jennifer Syme at a party and fell in love with her. On March 31, 1999, The Matrix premiered and Keanu became the most famous person on the planet. On December 24, 1999, exactly on Christmas night, his daughter, Ava Archer Syme Reeves, was born after 8 months of pregnancy in absolute silence because the baby was stillborn before she could breathe. In 2000 and 2001, he filmed Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, stepping onto the set every day to play the savior of the world. On April 2, 2001, Jennifer Syme died in a car accident on Cahuenga Boulevard at dawn, at the age of 28. That same year, he continued filming The Matrix. In the span of about 8 years, from 1993 to 2001, Keanu Reeves lost his best friend, lost his daughter, lost the woman he loved, and at the same time became one of the biggest stars in film history. The world was worshipping Neo, the one who could stop bullets, but no one knew that the actor behind that character could not stop anything. Every loss added another empty chair, and by this point, around Keanu Reeves, there were more empty chairs than occupied ones. We can only imagine what that felt like, walking off the set in Sydney, where he had just filmed a scene of Neo flying through the city with supernatural powers, taking off the black costume, getting into his private car, alone, driving through the night streets back to an empty house where no one was waiting, no daughter, no lover, no best friend, only silence and the awareness that on screen he was the one, but in real life he was the one left behind. 20 years after that moment, in June 2019 at Microsoft Xbox's E3 conference, Keanu Reeves stepped onto the stage to introduce the game Cyberpunk 2077, in which he voiced the character Johnny Silverhand. In the middle of the presentation, a fan in the crowd of thousands suddenly shouted, "You're awesome." Keanu stopped, pointed straight at that person, and replied immediately, "No, you're awesome. All of you are awesome." That moment spread across the internet within hours. Millions of people shared it, commented, made memes, called him the kindest man in the world, and loved him all over again for that reflex of giving the compliment back. But did anyone stop to ask, what kind of loss must a man carry for his first reflex to every compliment to be pushing it away, returning it to others, refusing to believe that he is someone worthy of being loved? That reflex is not humility. It is the mark of a person who was abandoned early enough, deeply enough, quietly enough, never to truly believe that he deserves to stay in anyone's life. The 3-year-old boy in Beirut whose father left without a goodbye was still somewhere inside the 54-year-old man standing on the E3 stage that night, still pushing compliments away, because accepting a compliment means believing he is worthy, and believing he is worthy means accepting the risk of being abandoned once more. On Halloween night, October 31, 1993, outside the Viper Room nightclub on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood, River Phoenix collapsed onto the sidewalk and never got up. He was 23 years old. The cause of death was determined to be a drug overdose from a mixture of cocaine, morphine, and Valium at levels many times the lethal dose. That night, River went to the Viper Room with his girlfriend Samantha Mathis, his brother Joaquin Phoenix, his sister Rain Phoenix, and a group of close friends, including Keanu Reeves. Keanu did not hear about River's death over the phone. He did not read about it in the morning papers. He was there. He witnessed it. The 19-year-old boy for whom he had ridden a motorcycle more than 2,000 kilometers across America just to deliver a script. The boy who had once said that Keanu would rule the world. The boy who had made a blood pact with him on the set of My Own Private Idaho. The boy whom Keanu called my best friend, and I don't have many best friends. That boy lay on the sidewalk outside a nightclub on the night when children across America were going door to door for candy, and Keanu could do nothing. Joaquin Phoenix, 19 years old, called 911 in panic. The recording of that call, Joaquin's crying, his pleading for the ambulance to come faster, later became one of the most haunting audio clips in Hollywood history. The ambulance arrived at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at 1:51 a.m. on October 31. River Phoenix was pronounced dead at 1:51 a.m., the same moment the ambulance reached the hospital. He had already died before leaving the sidewalk. At that time, Keanu was in the middle of filming Speed with Sandra Bullock. Sandra later recounted that she saw how Keanu grieved, and oh my God, he really grieved for his friend, that he was very private but could not hide it. And when you see a man like that capable of grieving so deeply, you think if this is only the tip of the iceberg of the depth of his soul, then it draws you in. Keanu fell into severe depression. His film career was at its best point. Speed was about to turn him into a superstar, but inside that man there was a new emptiness, larger and more painful than all the previous ones. Because this was the first time in Keanu's life he had actively loved someone outside his family, actively invited someone to sit in the chair beside him, and that person died. Before River, his losses had all been things he did not choose. His father left when he was 3, the family fell apart, stability was taken away. But River was a relationship he built himself, a friendship he chose, and River's death taught him the most brutal lesson, that loving someone does not protect them from anything, that the chair you invite someone to sit in can become empty at any moment, and you have no control. 30 years after River Phoenix's death, in an interview with Esquire magazine in 2021, Keanu began talking about his friend and then stopped midway. He said it's really strange to talk about him in the past tense, that I hate talking about him in the past tense, so I almost always keep it in the present. That he is a very special human being, very original, unique, intelligent, talented, extremely creative, thoughtful, brave, funny, both dark and light, that I miss him. Keanu Reeves never talks about River Phoenix in the past tense. That is how he keeps his friend alive, through grammar, by refusing to use the past tense, as if as long as he keeps saying is instead of was, then River is still somewhere. In 2022, actor Matthew Perry, who played Chandler Bing in the series Friends, wrote in his memoir Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, a sentence that the entire internet could not forgive. Perry wrote that River was a beautiful man, inside and out, too beautiful for this world, that it always seems to be the original talents who fall. Why do original thinkers like River Phoenix and Heath Ledger die, while Keanu Reeves is still alive among us? The internet was outraged. Perry later publicly apologized, saying it was a stupid and mean thing, that he chose Keanu's name randomly, that he is truly a fan of Keanu, and promised to remove his name from all future printings. But the question had been asked, and it did not disappear just because the asker apologized. Why am I still alive while River is not? Perhaps that is the question Keanu Reeves has asked himself every night for the past 30 years, without needing Matthew Perry to remind him. Perry died on October 28, 2023, from the acute effects of ketamine, 3 days before the 30th anniversary of River Phoenix's death. Pain is not a competition, and both men carried wounds that outsiders cannot measure. Then came the most painful part. In 1998, Keanu met Jennifer at a party for his band Dog Star. Jennifer Maria Seam, born September 7, 1972, in Pico Rivera, California, was an actress, personal assistant to musician Dave Navarro, and a director at Marilyn Manson's record label. She was 26, full of life, and Keanu loved her. They dated, lived together, and Jennifer became pregnant. They named their daughter Ava Archer Syme Reeves. On December 24, 1999, Christmas night, after 8 months of pregnancy, Jennifer went into labor. Ava Archer Syme Reeves was born in silence. The baby was stillborn. On the night when the whole world was opening presents, hugging family, singing songs about miracles and hope, Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme held a baby who did not breathe. The high chair for the baby that someone had already bought would never be used. The pain of losing a child destroyed everything around it. Jennifer fell into postpartum depression layered on top of the grief of losing a child, a brutal combination that psychiatry describes as almost unbearable. The relationship collapsed within a few weeks. Keanu and Jennifer broke up, but still kept in contact. still cared for each other, still bound by the thread of the child lying in the ground. And here appeared a cruel loop so severe it felt as if fate was parodying itself. Keanu lost his father at age 3 because his father chose to leave. Now at age 35, he lost his daughter before she could open her eyes. He was both the child without a father and the father without a child. Both ends of the rope were cut, and he stood in the middle, belonging to neither role. In early 2001, Keanu and Jennifer reconciled. On the night of April 1, 2001, Jennifer attended a party at singer Marilyn Manson's house in the Hollywood Hills. After the party, she was driven home by a private driver. But at some point during the night, she drove the Jeep Grand Cherokee back to the party herself. At dawn on April 2, 2001, on Cahuenga Boulevard in Los Angeles, Jennifer's Jeep crashed head-on into 3 parked cars. Jennifer was not wearing a seatbelt. She was thrown from the vehicle. She died at the scene. 28 years old. The autopsy report later showed she was intoxicated and had traces of the antidepressants her doctor had prescribed after Ava's death. Keanu called the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office to ask if Jennifer Syme was there. He was one of the pallbearers at her funeral, alongside director David Lynch and musician Dave Navarro. Jennifer Maria Syme was buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park, next to her daughter Ava Archer Syme Reeves. Mother and child lay side by side in the ground, and the man who loved them both stood above, alone. Within 16 months, Keanu Reeves lost his daughter and then lost the woman he loved. 2 empty chairs side by side, the smallest one and the closest one, and neither would ever be sat in again. Years later, in an interview with Parade magazine in 2006, Keanu spoke about pain in a way few people can. He said that grief changes shape but never ends, that people have the mistaken idea that you can deal with it and then say, okay, I'm over it. That for him what the grief has done is dig so deep that it opened up a space, and that space itself allows the joy of life to pour in. He did not say he got over the pain. He did not say the pain disappeared. He said the pain dug deep, and the very hole that the pain dug created room for joy to exist. This is the philosophy that explains why Keanu Reeves is kind. Not because he is strong, not because he is optimistic, but because he has been dug deep enough that inside him there is room to hold both his own pain and the pain of others. He is kind not because he does not hurt. He is kind because he hurts deeply enough to understand the pain of anyone standing in front of him. In 2016, he and visual artist Alexandra Grant published the book Shadows, a work he described as a way to express pain in a healthy manner. And that was the first clue that somewhere in the desert of the decade of solitude, Keanu Reeves had begun to find a way out. In 1991, right when Keanu was filming Point Break and My Own Private Idaho, his sister Kim, then 25 years old, was diagnosed with lymphocytic leukemia, a form of blood cancer whose survival rate at the time gave no one reason for optimism. Keanu's reaction was immediate and without hesitation. He sold his house to move closer to his sister. For the next 10 years, from 1991 to 2001, alongside filming, alongside losing River, losing Ava, losing Jennifer, Keanu Reeves became Kim's primary caregiver. He cooked for her. He cleaned the house for her. He prepared her medicines every day, according to the exact treatment schedule the doctors prescribed. He managed hospital appointments, radiation schedules, blood test schedules. When Kim was in the most critical stage, he requested a temporary halt to the filming schedule of the next Matrix film. And Warner Brothers agreed because even a giant studio could not say no to a man who was keeping his sister alive. Kim later told Woman's Day magazine that Keanu helped her so much throughout her illness, that when the pain became really bad, he would sit beside her and hold her hand, that he was always there, supporting and comforting her all the time, even when he was far away. Keanu said to the press only one sentence about this, that Kim is the most important thing to him, that it puts everything into perspective when you face a situation like that with a loved one. And then he never spoke about it again. No interviews, no charity campaign bearing his name, no photos by his sister's bedside. Only a man sitting by a hospital bed holding his sister's hand every day for 10 years, and the outside world knew nothing until many years later. In the early 2000s, after nearly a decade of relentless treatment, Kim went into complete remission. By 2026, she had been free of the disease for more than 20 years. Kim Reeves now lives on the island of Capri, Italy, a place she chose for its quiet and distance from the world she grew up beside. She has no social media, does not appear publicly, and paparazzi sometimes catch her and Keanu on yacht trips or private dinners on the island, two siblings growing older together in silence. With the money earned from The Matrix, about $45 million for the first film, Keanu donated $31.5 million, or 70% of his earnings, to leukemia research. He established a private charity fund that operated for many years without attaching his name. And when Ladies' Home Journal asked about it in 2009, he only said that I have a private foundation that's been running for 5 or 6 years. It supports a few children's hospitals and cancer research, that I don't like putting my name on it. I just let the foundation do its work. Kim Reeves, throughout this story, is the chair that never emptied. When their father left, Kim stayed. When their mother changed husbands, Kim stayed. When River died, Kim was still there. When Ava died, when Jennifer died, when the whole world around Keanu turned into a graveyard of empty chairs, Kim still sat there even though she was fighting cancer. Even though she was in so much pain she needed someone to hold her hand, she was still the only constant in his life. And perhaps that is why Keanu was willing to give up everything. Give up his career, give up money, give up 10 years of his life to keep that chair from emptying, because he had already lost too many chairs. The period from 2001 to 2013, after all the tragedies had occurred and Kim had recovered, Keanu entered what can only be called a desert. He continued making films, Constantine in 2005, A Scanner Darkly in 2006 with director Richard Linklater, The Lake House in 2006 with Sandra Bullock, Street Kings in 2008, 47 Ronin in 2013. None of the films failed disastrously. None succeeded spectacularly. He existed in Hollywood's middle ground, enough to keep working, not enough to occupy the spotlight. And what is remarkable is that he did not panic about that. He chose films by feeling rather than by market, alternating action films with independent art films. And in 2013, he directed his debut film Man of Tai Chi, a martial arts film set in Beijing, proving that he was still creative, still curious, only uninterested in who was watching. This was the loneliest period of Keanu Reeves' life. No public dating with anyone, no social media, no Instagram, no Twitter, no Facebook, nothing at all. He was frequently spotted alone on the New York subway, sitting like any other passenger. No bodyguards, no assistants, no sunglasses to hide his face. And then one day in June 2010, a photographer captured the photo that would become one of the most famous memes in internet history. Keanu Reeves sitting alone on a park bench in New York, eating a sandwich, looking down at the ground, shoulders slightly hunched, looking like the saddest person in the world. The photo became the Sad Keanu meme, spreading across every platform, turned into thousands of versions, and the internet went crazy. Not to mock him, but to love him in a strange way no one had ever loved a celebrity before. People were not laughing at Keanu. They were laughing with a feeling of loneliness that everyone recognized in themselves. But this is the perfect evidence for the thesis of this entire story. The world saw the real pain of a man sitting alone on a park bench, turned it into entertainment content, loved him for that pain, shared it millions of times, and no one, not a single person, stopped to ask if he was okay. The Sad Keanu photo, if looked at closely, is the miniature image of the entire motif running through this story. A man sitting on one chair and every chair around him empty. For an entire decade, Keanu Reeves lived without the spotlight, without a lover, without a family of his own. He cared for his sister, made films, donated money to charity, rode the subway, sat alone, eating a sandwich on a park bench, and waited, though perhaps he did not know what he was waiting for. Or perhaps he had long since stopped waiting, had accepted that the empty chairs around him would remain empty forever, that his life would be walking through a long desert with no destination. Then into 2014, the phone rang. The call came from director Chad Stahelski, a former stuntman who had once been Keanu's stunt double in The Matrix. Stahelski had a script about a legendary retired assassin living in seclusion with his wife, and when the wife dies of illness, she leaves him a puppy as a final gift, a last thread connecting him to the love he has lost. Then someone breaks into the house and kills the dog. And that man, the one who had accepted loss, had laid down his weapons, had tried to live like an ordinary person. That man wakes up and kills everyone involved. That script became John Wick. And Keanu read it and said yes immediately, because he did not need to act this role. He only needed to remember. John Wick is not an ordinary action film. It is not about guns or kung fu or beautiful chase scenes, even though it has all of those things. John Wick is a film about pain, about a man who has lost everything and uses violence as the only way to feel something, anything, in a world that has become numb after too much loss. Keanu later revealed that he used the pain of losing Jennifer Simon Ava as the emotional foundation for the character, that with the character and in life it is about the love for the person you are mourning. And whenever you can be beside that fire, it is warm. John Wick is Jennifer Simon encoded into a fictional character. John Wick Ava Archer Keanu Reeves encoded into a puppy named Daisy. John Wick is River Phoenix encoded into an underworld full of souls trapped between life and death. Keanu did not run from the pain. He did not deny it. He transformed it into art, and that art premiered on October 24, 2014, with a salary for Keanu of only $1 to $2 million. A modest figure compared to the Matrix era, and became a global phenomenon that no one predicted. John Wick grossed $86 million worldwide on a budget of only $20 million, spawned 3 sequels, with the total franchise revenue exceeding $1 billion, and turned Keanu Reeves at age 49, an age when most Hollywood action actors had already switched to playing fathers or aging villains, into the most beloved action star on the planet once again. The Matrix was the first rebirth. John Wick was the second rebirth. And this rebirth demanded a physical price that few at age 50 would accept paying. Keanu performed almost every stunt himself, trained in real 3-gun competition, shooting for months under instructor Taron Butler, practiced judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, learned high-speed driving and horseback riding, all at an intensity that professional stunt performers 20 years younger admitted was impressive. His body at 50 did things his body at 30 had never attempted, and there was something almost defiant of fate in that, as if he were telling the world that you took my best friend, my daughter, the woman I loved, but you will not take this body, you will not take this will, you will not take my ability to stand back up. But the real revival, the revival that no film could provide, came from a dinner party in 2009. Keanu met Alexandra Grant, an American visual artist born on April 4, 1973, at a dinner in Los Angeles, and they did not fall in love. Not yet. They became friends first. They talked about art, about language, about the way images and writing intersect. In 2011, Alexandra made a private gift for Keanu, a small book titled Ode to Happiness, in which Keanu wrote a lightly satirical poem about sadness, and Alexandra illustrated it in black ink. Alexandra told British Vogue magazine that the book was made as a surprise gift by her for Keanu, as a private present. And when she gave it to him in front of friends, everyone laughed and said publish it. And that was how they entered the world of publishing. In 2016, they created a second book together, Shadows, a work about darkness and loss, with Keanu writing and Alexandra photographing. And this was how the two of them processed pain together, through art, through placing the pain on paper instead of keeping it in the chest. In 2017, they co-founded the publishing house X Artists Books, 10 years from when they met. 10 years of friendship, collaboration, building a shared world without anyone rushing. Then around 2018, the friendship became love, slowly, naturally, like 2 rivers flowing parallel, for so long that they finally merged into one. Alexandra told People magazine that the beautiful thing about loving when you are already grown is that she had built her own career before the relationship began, that it is both interdependent and independent in the best way. In November 2019, at the Laxma Art Plus Film Gala in Los Angeles, Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant walked the red carpet holding hands, and the internet did not go crazy over scandal, did not go crazy over drama, but went crazy over pure happiness, because after everything they knew about this man's life, finally he had someone. Finally he was not walking alone anymore. When Keanu was asked about his most recent happy moment, he did not talk about awards or box office. He said a few days ago with his girlfriend that they were lying in bed, that they connected, that they laughed and giggled, that it felt wonderful, that it was simply so joyful to be together. Alexandra Grant lets her hair go naturally gray, does not dye it, does not hide her age, and the internet loves that because she does not try to look younger than she is. She accepts the time that has passed the way Keanu accepts the pain that has come. In September 2025, rumors spread that they had secretly married in Europe. Keanu's representative denied it, and Alexandra posted on Instagram a photo of the two of them kissing with the caption, "Thank you everyone for congratulating us on our wedding. Except that we have not gotten married. That good news is very necessary in this era, but this is still fake news. They did not need a wedding to prove anything. The chair beside Keanu, empty for 20 years, finally had someone sitting in it, and that someone did not just sit. She tore the sleeve of her dress to raise her arm high enough for him to see. That detail came from the final night of Waiting for Godot on the Broadway stage, January 2026. Keanu made his Broadway debut at age 61 as Estragon, one of two tramps waiting for someone named Godot who never arrives, and his co-star was Alex Winter, Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. 35 years earlier, the same friend, now gray-haired, standing on a Broadway stage performing an existential play about hopeless waiting instead of a comedy about time travel. And if that is not the most perfect metaphor for life, then nothing is a metaphor. The production ran for 15 previews and 113 official performances. Alexandra wrote on Instagram that Keanu's Estragon is joyful, lonely, contemplative, philosophical, and shares his ability to sleep anywhere, anytime. On the final night, Alexandra shared a video of the moment Keanu spotted her in the audience during the curtain call, and she wrote that I tore the sleeve of my dress to raise my arm high enough so Keanu could see me. Waiting for Godot is a play about two men waiting for someone who never comes. Keanu Reeves had been waiting his whole life, but unlike Godot, the one he waited for arrived, and she tore her clothes just so he would know she was there. Keanu Reeves at age 62 has love, has Alexandra, has Broadway, has the band Dogstar that just released a new album, has the film Project Outcome premiering in April 2026, has Ballerina, has talks about Constantine 2, has the novel The Book of Elsewhere written with China Miéville, has the motorcycle company Arch Motorcycle that he co-founded. But this is not a happy ending. River is still dead. Ava still lies in the ground at Westwood Village Cemetery. Jennifer still lies beside her daughter. His mother is still growing older. His father is still a void. His kindness still originates from that place, from the hole that the pain dug, and that hole cannot be filled. It only becomes a place that can hold something else. Keanu Reeves is not the best person in Hollywood, because calling someone the best turns kindness into a title, and titles can be stripped away. He is also not the most suffering person in Hollywood, because there are many who suffer more whose names the world does not know, and pain is not a competition. He is a man who has been shattered by life many times. His father left when he was 3. His best friend died at 23. His daughter died before she could breathe. The woman he loved died on Cahuenga Boulevard at dawn. His sister fought cancer for 10 years, and after all those blows, he chose not to strike back. He did not become bitter. He did not become cold. He did not become addicted or self-destructive or blame the world. He chose to cook for his sister. He chose to give $20,000 to a set dresser who was in financial trouble whose name he knew. He chose to give up his seat to a pregnant woman on the New York subway that no one filmed. And another time when someone did film it, it became news because an A-list star riding the subway and giving up his seat is something unbelievable in Hollywood. He chose to keep his hand hovering in every photo taken with women. He chose to auction a 15-minute Zoom date with himself in 2020. The winner paid more than $19,000, and the entire amount was sent to Camp Rainbow Gold, a summer program for children with cancer in Idaho. He chose to give Rolex Submariner watches, engraved with individual names, to every member of the John Wick Chapter 4 stunt team when the film wrapped. He chose to donate $31.5 million to leukemia research, and then establish a charity fund that ran for many years without attaching his name to it, because he did not do it so anyone would know. He did it because his sister had once lain in a hospital bed, and he wanted no one else to have to lie there. Each of those actions is small if taken alone. One watch, one given up seat, one untouched hand, one unsigned check. But added together over 40 years, they form a consistent pattern of behavior that cannot be acting. Because no one can act for 40 years without a break. No one can maintain a charitable character for 4 decades without slipping once in front of the camera. And if that is acting, then it is the greatest performance in film history. Greater than Neo and John Wick combined. The legacy of Keanu Reeves is not Neo, not John Wick, not Ted Theodore Logan. Those characters will be rebooted, remade, played again by other actors, and one day the next generation will not remember who played them first. His real legacy does not sit in any trophy case. It lies in the way he makes strangers feel seen. It lies in the living proof that pain does not necessarily have to turn you bitter, that being abandoned does not necessarily have to turn you into someone who abandons others, that loss does not necessarily have to turn you into someone afraid to love. The world calls him the kindest man in Hollywood. Now you know why. Going back to the question at the beginning of this story, how can a man who buried his best friend, buried his daughter, buried the woman he loved, all before the age of 40, still walk into a room and make everyone in it feel safer? The answer is not because he is strong, not because he is optimistic, not because he is inherently good. The answer lies in the very words he said to Parade magazine in 2006, that the pain dug so deep that it opened up a space, and that space itself allows the joy of life to pour in. Keanu Reeves is kind not because he does not hurt. He is kind because he has been dug deep enough by the death of River, by the silence of Ava, by the Jeep on Cawenga Boulevard, by 10 years of holding his sister's hand in a hospital bed, by a childhood without a father, dug deep enough that inside him there is a space wide enough to hold both his own pain and the pain of anyone standing in front of him. He understands the pain of strangers because he carries within himself a worse version of that pain. And when you have already carried the heaviest thing, then everything else is lighter, including giving up a seat, including holding the hand of someone who is crying, including holding the door open for the person behind you. Around Keanu Reeves, there are still empty chairs. There always will be. The chair of River, the chair of Ava, the chair of Jennifer. But he has learned something that most people never learn, that an empty chair is not nothingness. It is a monument to someone who was once loved. Keanu Reeves does not teach us how to avoid pain. He teaches us that when pain comes, and it will come, you can still hold the door open for the person behind you. When you think of Keanu Reeves, what appears first in your mind? Is it the films? Is it the kindness? Or is it the quiet way he carries on his shoulders, something most of us will never have to carry? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this story touched you, send it to someone you think needs to hear it today. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next stories like this. Thank you for staying until the very last minute. See you in the next video.